Something changed. You can't quite name it, but you feel it. The people around you seem slightly different, not dramatically, just off. Conversations that used to engage you now feel hollow. Places you've known for years suddenly feel unfamiliar, like you're seeing them for the first time even though nothing has physically changed. And then there are the memories, moments you're certain happened that other people swear never occurred. Or the opposite, collective memories you have no recollection of, even though everyone else seems to remember them clearly. You've probably dismissed these experiences, told yourself you're just tired, stressed, distracted, that your memory is playing tricks on you. But what if I told you that none of this is coincidence? What if these aren't glitches in your perception, but evidence of something far more profound? You've shifted timelines, and you're one of the rare 1% who's actually aware of it. Most people move between timelines constantly without ever knowing. They experience the Mandela effect, collective false memories, and laugh it off. They notice reality feeling different and blame it on getting older. They sense a fundamental shift in their life and call it personal growth. But you've felt it at a deeper level. You've noticed the seams, the places where this reality doesn't quite match the one you remember. And that noticing is the sign that you're no longer living in the timeline you were born into. Here's what's happening. In quantum mechanics, the many worlds interpretation suggests that every decision, every choice, every moment of possibility creates a branch in reality. Not metaphorically, literally. When you choose between two options, both versions of you continue to exist, each in a different timeline. One version chose option A, another chose option B. And both timelines are equally real. Most of the time, these shifts are so subtle you don't notice them. You take a different route to work, and you've technically shifted to a timeline where that route was chosen. But the timelines are so similar that nothing feels different. The shift is invisible. However, occasionally, whether through conscious intention, energetic alignment, or a moment of quantum coherence, you make a leap so significant that the new timeline feels noticeably different from the old one. Different enough that you can sense it. Different enough that reality itself seems to have been rewritten. And if you're here, watching this video, feeling this strange recognition as I speak, it's because you're one of the people who made that leap. You're living in a different timeline than you were weeks, months, or maybe even years ago. And the fact that you can feel it means you're part of the 1% who are quantum aware enough to recognize the shift. This video will show you the exact signs that prove you've already jumped timelines, why most people never realize it's happened, and how to stabilize yourself in this new reality so you can continue moving toward even higher timelines instead of slipping back into old ones. The many worlds reality. Let's start with the science, because timeline shifting isn't mysticism, it's quantum physics. In 1957, physicist Hugh Everett proposed the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. It states that every quantum event, every moment of possibility, causes reality to branch into multiple parallel timelines. In one timeline, the particle goes left. In another, it goes right. Both outcomes happen, both realities exist, and both are equally valid. This isn't science fiction. This is accepted quantum theory. And if it's true for subatomic particles, it's true for you. Every decision you make creates a branch point. Every choice splits reality. The version of you who chose coffee this morning exists in one timeline. The version who chose tea exists in another. Most of these splits are trivial. The timelines are virtually identical, but some choices, the big ones, the ones made from deep alignment or emotional intensity, create branches that diverge significantly. Now here's where it gets interesting. You don't just move forward in time, you move laterally across timelines, constantly. Your consciousness is not locked into a single linear path. It's navigating a web of possibilities, choosing which timeline to experience moment by moment. And most of the time, you do this unconsciously. Your dominant frequency, the emotional and mental state you hold most consistently, determines which timeline you experience. The observer creates the timeline. In quantum mechanics, there's a principle called wave function collapse. Before observation, a particle exists in superposition in all possible states at once. But the moment you observe it, the wave function collapses, and the particle takes a definite position. Your observation didn't just reveal where the particle was, it determined where the particle is. You are doing the same thing with your reality, your consciousness, your focus, your belief, your emotional state is collapsing probability waves into lived experience. And when your focus shifts dramatically, when your belief system fundamentally changes, when your emotional baseline transforms, you're not just changing your perspective on reality, you're collapsing into a different timeline altogether. Think of it like this. Imagine standing at the center of a vast library where every possible version of your life exists as a book on a shelf. Most people walk down the same aisle their entire lives, picking up books that are nearly identical to the one they just read. Same plot, same characters, slightly different details. But occasionally, someone makes a choice so aligned, so coherent, so energetically powerful that they turn down a completely different aisle. And suddenly, the books, the timelines, are fundamentally different. That's what happened to you. You turned down a different aisle, and now you're reading from a different book, a different version of reality. One that feels similar enough that most people wouldn't notice the difference, but different enough that you can sense it. Different enough that things don't quite line up with the reality you remember. Why this happens now? Timeline shifts don't happen randomly. They happen at moments of heightened coherence, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions align so completely that your frequency becomes a clear, undistorted signal. This can happen through conscious intention, a moment where you decided with absolute certainty to change your life. Emotional breakthrough, a release of old trauma or limiting belief that freed your energy. Spiritual awakening, a shift in identity where you stopped seeing yourself as the old version and fully embodied a new one. Or collective shift, during times of global change, when the collective consciousness creates openings for individual jumps. If you've experienced any of these recently, you've likely jumped timelines. And the more aware you are of the shift, the more control you have over where you go next. Sign 1. The memory discrepancy. The first and most obvious sign is memory mismatch. You remember events differently than others, not because your memory is faulty, but because in your previous timeline, events unfolded differently. Maybe you remember a celebrity dying years ago, but everyone else insists they're still alive. Or you recall a conversation with someone who has no memory of it. Or a place you're certain existed has vanished, and no one else remembers it ever being there. These aren't mistakes. These are residual memories from your previous timeline bleeding through. Your consciousness has shifted, but some memories remain from where you were. This is why the Mandela effect exists. It's not mass delusion. It's evidence of timeline convergence, moments where multiple timelines merge, and people carry memories from different versions. Sign 2. Sudden relationship shifts. People who used to feel like home now feel like strangers. Not because they changed, but because you're interacting with a different vibrational version of them. In your old timeline, your connection was strong. In this new timeline, that connection doesn't exist with the same intensity. Or the opposite, someone you barely knew suddenly feels deeply familiar, as if you've known them forever. That's because in this timeline, your energetic alignment with them is different. Sign 3. Interests and passions transform overnight. You wake up one day and realize that things you used to care deeply about no longer resonate. The job that once gave you purpose feels meaningless. The hobbies you invested years in suddenly bore you. Meanwhile, completely new interests emerge out of nowhere. You're drawn to topics you never cared about before. This isn't personal growth. This is evidence that you've shifted into a timeline where your soul's priorities are different. Sign 4. Physical reality feels different. Colors seem brighter or duller. The quality of light looks different. Even your own reflection in the mirror seems slightly off, not worse or better, just not quite how you remember it. This is because different timelines have different energetic densities. Some are lighter, some are heavier. When you shift, your physical senses pick up on that difference, even if your mind can't articulate it. Sign 5. Time feels non-linear. Days pass in what feels like hours, or hours stretch into what feels like days. You experience intense déjà vu, not occasionally, but constantly, or you have precognitive dreams that come true days or weeks later. Time doesn't feel like a straight line anymore. It feels fluid, bendable. That's because in quantum terms, time is not linear. And when you've shifted timelines, your perception of time shifts with it. Sign 6. Old problems vanish without resolution. This is a big one. You had a problem, financial stress, a difficult relationship, a health issue, and suddenly, without doing anything specific, it's just gone, not solved, dissolved, as if it never existed in the first place. That's because in this new timeline, the circumstances that created that problem don't exist. You didn't fix the problem. You jumped to a timeline where the problem was never there. Sign 7. You feel like an observer. Perhaps the most telling sign is this. You feel like you're watching your life from outside of it. Not dissociated, not depressed, but detached in a calm, neutral way. You're aware that you're playing a role, but you also know it's not the entirety of who you are. You feel like a consciousness inhabiting this body, this life, this moment, but not defined by any of it. That observer awareness is the hallmark of someone who's quantum aware, someone who knows, at a soul level, that they've shifted. Consciousness integration. Here's the strangest part. Even though you've shifted timelines, you don't remember the moment it happened. Why? Because consciousness integrates seamlessly. When you jump to a new timeline, your awareness doesn't carry a narrative of the jump. Instead, your consciousness rewrites your memory to match the new timeline. Think of it like waking from a dream. You don't remember the exact moment you fell asleep. One moment you were awake, the next you're in the dream. And when you wake up, you don't remember the transition. Timeline shifts work the same way. The shift happens in a moment of quantum superposition, a brief instant where both timelines exist simultaneously. And then, one collapses, and you're in the new one, with memories that support the continuity of this reality, not the one you left. The bleed-through effect. But here's why you feel something is different. While most memories integrate, some don't. Certain memories, usually ones tied to strong emotion, trauma, or deep identity, resist integration. They bleed through from the old timeline. These are the memories that create the discrepancies. The moments where you remember something that no one else does, or where reality doesn't match your recollection. This isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Those bleed-through memories are your proof, your evidence that you've moved. And for most people, these memories are dismissed, rationalized, or forgotten. But for you, someone quantum aware, they're confirmation. Why? Only 1%. Notice? So why does only 1% of the population notice this? Because most people are so identified with their current reality that they can't imagine another one exists. Their belief in the solidity of reality is so strong that it blinds them to the shifts. They experience the Mandela effect and laugh it off. They notice relationships changing and blame it on people changing. They feel different but attribute it to mood or circumstance. But you're different. You've cultivated enough awareness, enough presence, enough openness to possibility that you can sense the seams. You can feel when something doesn't match. And that awareness is rare. That awareness is what makes you part of the 1%. Practice 1. Stop looking back. The biggest mistake people make after shifting is trying to reconnect with the old timeline. They reach out to people who no longer resonate. They try to reignite passions that have faded. They cling to routines that don't fit anymore. Every time you do this, you create a frequency mismatch. You're broadcasting a signal that says, "I want to go back." And the quantum field responds by pulling you toward timelines that match that signal. Instead, trust the shift. If something or someone has fallen away, let it. That's not loss, that's alignment. This new timeline doesn't include those things because they're not part of your highest path here. Practice 2. Anchor in the present. Timeline instability happens when your awareness splits between past and future. You're thinking about how things used to be or worrying about how things will turn out. Both pull you out of this moment. And this moment is the only point where you have power to stabilize. So anchor here. Breath, sensation, presence. The more present you are, the more solid this timeline becomes. The less you'll feel like you're slipping between realities. Practice 3. Embody the new identity. You're in a new timeline because you're a new version of yourself. Not metaphorically, energetically. Your frequency has shifted. And to stay in this timeline, you need to embody the identity that matches it. How does this version of you think? How do they act? What do they value? What do they prioritize? Start living as if you are already that person, because in this timeline, you are. Practice 4. Watch for synchronicities. Synchronicities aren't random. They're your confirmation that you're aligned with this timeline. The more you see them, the more stable you are here. So pay attention. Notice the repeating numbers, the meaningful coincidences, the perfect timing. These are the field's way of saying, yes, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Practice 5. Trust the forgetting. Finally, let go of the need to remember the old timeline. The memories that fade aren't losses, they're integrations. The more you try to hold on to the old reality, the more you create resistance to the new one. Trust that what's meant to stay will stay, and what's meant to dissolve will dissolve. Your job isn't to preserve the past, it's to fully inhabit the present. Here's what I need you to know. You're not imagining this. You're not making it up. You're not confused or delusional. You shifted timelines. And the fact that you can feel it means you're more conscious, more aware, more quantum aligned than 99% of the population. This is not something to fear. This is something to celebrate. Because if you've shifted once, you can shift again and again. And every time you do, you move closer to the version of reality that matches your highest potential. So stop second-guessing yourself. Stop dismissing the signs. Stop trying to fit back into a reality that no longer exists. You're in a new timeline, and this timeline chose you as much as you chose it. The only question now is, are you going to stabilize here and keep moving forward? Or are you going to resist and try to go back to a version of reality that's no longer available? If you're ready to move forward, drop a comment and say, "New timeline activated." Let that be your declaration that you're done looking back and ready to fully embody where you are now. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay present, stay aware, and trust the timeline you're in.